know to be wrong, and having us popping antidepressants that they know won't work, and perhaps opening our mind up to even more spiritual influence. Is it any wonder that, almost comically, depression, psychotic episodes, and suicide are side effects of antidepressant and antipsychotic medications? It's been said that humans were once telepathic and could communicate to each other and even animals using only their mind. Let's assume, hypothetically, that that's correct. If a human and animal could in any way perceive each other's thoughts, then there must be a universal language by which concepts and images are conveyed. This universal language is so universal that even the animals speak it. So perhaps the magical program accepts commands by listening to the thoughts and intentions of the magician. Still, there must be something else that the magical program requires to constitute a magical command. Everyone has called out God, sometimes while doing the most horrendous things, and he failed to show up. Countless times have the words Satan and the devil been said aloud or contemplated on, and still he doesn't show. We all have will and desires, but what stops those everyday thoughts from becoming magical commands? The answer is ritual, visualization, and invocation. We all have ritual. Some smoke a cigarette the moment they wake up, some stumble to the coffee machine, and others head straight to the bathroom. Every day we engage in ritualistic behavior, but the difference between our rituals and the rituals of the magician is that ours are utilitarian, while theirs are symbolic. Ours are done to achieve a goal that needs achieving frequently, so we do them frequently, while in their rituals, the individual actions are symbolic of their intentions and represent an organized way to send commands to the magical program. The second major difference between our ritual and theirs is intense visualization. Often, while uttering the words of the ritual, the magician is intensely visualizing things like energy being drawn into him, sent out of him, drawn from high above, or using it to trace invisible symbols in the air. At the beginning of the ritual, the magician's imagination is essentially cleansed, where he begins to imagine everything in the world disappearing except that which he needs to complete the ritual at hand. The third difference regarding rituals involves invoking certain spirits to do certain jobs. While conducting a ritual, the priest will call upon higher forces, such as archangels, archdemons, angels, intelligences, and other ruling spirits to see to it that the priest's command is executed. The priest calls upon, or invokes, these higher forces by uttering their names aloud while visualizing them. And so, there it is. Symbolic ritual, corresponding visualizations, and invocations to the dominant spirits open the gate to the magical program. But if this be entirely true, then why must or should I do certain things on certain days? Had I spit into that toad's mouth after sunrise, would I be left with miasma? Why would a spirit care if it's a full moon or what day of the week it is? And then there's all these rules relative to my environment. My ritual circle bearing certain symbols, drawn on the floor relative to the points on the compass, my altar at its center. And who was the first to try all of this? And are they sane enough to take seriously? But hey, I'm not here to debunk, nor project an aura of disbelief with all my questions. I'm merely curious. And, of course, then came the time for me to actually start practicing magic. One can't study the occult without studying magic, and magic is something that's impossible to learn completely from afar. I can say, without exaggeration, that I've read at least 70 books about magic in an effort to study the occult from the outside. The ultra-curious like myself, having to read book after book about gaining new knowledge and powers, is as cruel as sending brochures for amusement parks to a kid laid up in the hospital. But I already had a couple things going for me, and I wasn't a newbie in the strictest sense. Firstly, I had a basic, yet solid understanding of occult principles. Secondly, I had faith. Thirdly, I already knew what I needed to begin doing, like how my diet of peanut butter cookies and Mountain Dew was going to have a distinctly negative impact on my magical career. After coming to grips with the existence of the Illuminati, together with their firm belief in the occult, I became a believer in the power of magic. But I was afraid. I was afraid of opening portals to beings in other dimensions right next to my dirty clothes hamper. I was afraid of dealing with alien beings when I can hardly navigate dealings with my own race. And I was afraid of adding even more sin to the copious globs I was already holding on to. I know who I am. I'm weak and pathetic, and to sum it all up, I was afraid of going Darth Vader. Despite all this, I started doing rituals derived from the Order of the Golden Dawn and have been practicing for some time. Until now, I've resisted an urge many authors fail to resist, inundating their books with personal stories. Here, I believe one is in order, but if I play my cards right, you can still keep learning about important topics. How's that sound? At first, my research was completely geared to the Illuminati and Satanism specifically. I started reading books about Satanism and black magic, and noticed something that many Satanists partake in, using the names of multiple religions and mythologies to describe the same character. In the same sentence, Satanists would name 5 different gods from 5 different religions and declare that they were in fact the same entity. This was a conclusion that I came to independently. These black magicians made casual references to the biblical struggle of good and evil, the Greek and Egyptian gods, the Dajjal and Jinn of Islam, the Chi or life force of the Chinese, and the chakras of the Hindus. They appeared to embrace the truth in every religion, as if they took a bit of every religion and formed a new one, calling it the occult. But perhaps what has actually happened is that every religion has remaining shreds of occult truth, simply different shreds. This made the occult the purest remaining copy of the ultimate truth. From Jay-Z to David Rockefeller, the individual members of the Illuminati come from many different backgrounds and from many times and places. But the tie that is interwoven in all they do, the tie that truly binds, is the occult. Indeed, from where I was standing, all roads led to the occult. So my researching eye began to wander away from the exclusive realm of Satanism and black magic, and turned its attentions towards the occult as a whole. In regards to the wider world of the occult, you'll generally run into 2 types of books: the philosophy of the occult and magic. Avoid the former. Books about occult philosophy that make no mention of the laws of magic are often laced with deliberate misinformation, cryptic terms, veiled remarks, and a respectable gallery of symbols. Who are more guilty than the Freemasons? Yet, sadly, this is the chewed meat most reach for when studying the occult. Books about magic, on the other hand, spoke of the same things but in more literal terms. Unlike Freemasonic authors and other occult philosophers, who give grandiose titles to even the most elementary principles of magic, and even more pompous titles to themselves, the magician has dispensed with their misleading symbolism. What's more is that the New Age movement was founded upon the misleading teachings of these occult authors. Since the symbols and veiled comments of these occult philosophers are always based on magic, little true wisdom is to be gleaned from the text of these authors without knowledge of basic magical principles. Similar to how a dog views the English language as a series of meaningful keywords separated by mostly meaningless babble, our researcher will find himself scan reading these texts for keywords that offer a few meaningful reference points he can cling to: Lucifer, the light, Joachim and Boaz, and anything else that rings a bell. This constitutes the bulk of occult researchers. The truth of this statement is easily apparent by observing how many of these researchers will tell you that the Illuminati practice the occult, and how few of them will tell you how it's used.